a new publication from the landmark JAMA Ophthalmology LAMP study is adding important long-term insight into low-dose atropine discontinuation strategies for myopia management. Researchers followed children for 8 years and found that gradually tapering 0.05% atropine before stopping treatment resulted in less rebound myopia progression and reduced axial elongation compared with abrupt cessation. The findings suggest that younger children and those with higher baseline myopia may particularly benefit from a tapering approach, offering clinicians new guidance as myopia management patients begin reaching the stage where treatment discontinuation becomes a real-world consideration. Cary, what can you tell us about this piece?
Yeah, it's interesting because, that dealing with rebound from the past, I mean, we're never free of that with atropine. It's kind of interesting that they came up with this data on low dose that they actually had a rebound effect. It's small. It's a small increment. So, and the conclusions of the study were that they're not really sure why, And if you read it, the one group that they didn't taper went on 0.05 for the whole year, and the one they tapered went on 0.05 for 6 months, and then 0.025 for 6 months, which you would think intuitively would say, maybe they got better control from the other group. It's just really strange, but I want to applaud the LAMP study. We get a chance here. This has been an amazing group and an effort that they've done over these 8 years. Incredible. And they give us this valuable information, that I think, applause to them for their efforts here. Really, this has really made a difference in our field.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, anything to add?
Could not agree more. And I'm glad we started with this one because this, to me, is by far the most impactful, by far the most interesting of all the things that we'll go over here. Because atropine, we know it works. We know there's a rebound when we don't handle the stopping properly, but there's still so many questions about how to do that, how long to do that, what concentration to move to. If we go all the way back to Atom 1, atropine 1% is still the most effective myopia control product that we have, period. It's basically 100% effective. The problem is when you use that and you get this massive rebound, you give all that back. And so the more we can learn how to safely get off of atropine, the more we can keep the benefits that we made, the more we can make intelligent decisions about what strength to use. And I totally echo Cary's sentiment. The LAMP folks have done a really phenomenal job. They're so many studies come out and people immediately poke holes in them. I haven't heard a lot of critiques about LAMP at all. They've done a really good job looking ahead, planning, doing this the right way, and getting us some really, really useful information. And so, yes, now we can definitively say that tapering is better than not tapering. We kind of always suspected that, but it's important to have the information, in a real study. And hopefully it only opens the doors to us learning even more about, how to make a more nuanced decision there. Because this is still only the start. We have so much more to go, and this is super helpful. I really am happy to have read this and see what they're up to.
Yeah. I think, I have a couple of things I want to go over with both of you that stood out to me. The study shows a modest, quarter-diopter reduction in progression with tapering versus stopping atropine. In clinical practice, is that magnitude of difference meaningful enough to change, how you manage the discontinuation? I'll open it up to both of you.
That's a dynamite question, and it really gets down to what myopia management is all about. And it also reflects the fact that it's tough to talk about things that aren't expressed in axial length measurements in microns, because this is a quarter-diopter is huge in microns, but is it really huge in the long picture? And it really depends. I'd love to hear Andrew's opinion on this, but it really depends on how early you start in myopia management. I mean, and the patient, where the patient's at, how long are the eyeballs? I mean, whether the quarter-diopter is significant or not. If you start early and you do a lot of significant control before they even become myopic, in other words, pre-myopia, pre-onset myopia, then the quarter isn't going to be as significant because you've actually gotten a lot of really made a lot of headway against controlling myopia. But if you haven't, and you're seeing a 5-diopter myope walking in your office and it's got 25.78 millimeters of axial length, then you're going to say a quarter diopter is very meaningful because we look at the 26 millimeter mark. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew,
great
what do you
point.
think?
Great point. And yeah, I'll almost kind of dodge that question. I guess I don't view this as the last word by a long shot. I view this as the first word. And so you have to start somewhere. We've already proven with this that you can save a quarter diopter. And to me, all that means is that now when we optimize, now we'll be able to save a half diopter. Now we'll be able to save maybe 3/4 of a diopter, because that was, I believe, in that study, 3/4 of a diopter was how much the faster progressing group progressed over those 2 years. And so, yeah, I mean, basically that's a 33% reduction or more just in that time period getting off, which is, yeah, I would say significant, and it's only going to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. The next thing that stood out to me was that, younger children and those with higher baseline myopia appeared to benefit more from tapering. Should discontinuation strategies should those be individualized based on age,
Oh, yeah.
or
yeah.
severity?
Oh God, yes.
Like, or is there like a uniform protocol? What do you guys
There's
think?
nothing uniform at all in myopia
Yeah.
management. It's all
Absolutely.
individual. So when you hear these responses, you get online like Andy and I do, and you get online, you respond to parents. They just, that's one thing that you can help them with, is to understand that it's just that there's just not one thing that, which is the best control, right?
Yeah.
It's not that there's no answer like that, because it's all individual, and that actually is good news for our profession, because it means they need us still. We haven't got replaced by AI yet. So it could happen any moment now.
Yep. That 100% agree. I have nothing to add to that.
Okay. The next thing that stood out to me was about rebound. The findings suggest that rebound is reduced but not eliminated with tapering. How should clinicians balance the idea of better transition strategy versus the reality that progression still continues after stopping treatment?
Andy, you got an answer for that one? It's
Boy, asking the tough questions here.
he's loading up on us, I think. We're
Yeah, not pulling any punches here. That's the whole reason we need these studies, right? We can make our best guess, we can make our best estimates, and we can draw from our clinical experience. And at the end of the day, it still pales in comparison to having the hard data and knowing how big groups of kids respond in a controlled environment. And so, yeah, I mean, every little bit of knowledge that we add through our studies gives us more foundation to build our anecdotal, models on top of that. And so, every little bit of study information that we get moves some of that hypothetical into the concrete. And the more concrete we get, the better we're going to be able to take care of these kids.
I can give you the long perspective, because most everybody isn't as old as I am. So, I've been doing this as long as I have. When we basically began it. When the patient's sitting in their chair, the parents are sitting by them, and the patient now is graduate school now, or higher, or, even late years of college, you're looking at axial length measurements, and these are high-risk populations of Asian patients, that came into you not because it was previous before onset of myopia. You're seeing 3, 4, 5 diopter myopes, quite a bit. And most of them are below 26 millimeters. Okay, that's for me is the hallmark of success or not with any of our treatments, right? That's the goal, to get that, they're going to be not at this risk, that you save them from that. So but that's a long view, and we're, these short little things are not the long view, but in the end, it's all worth it, I guess is what I'm saying.